Let us discuss about principle of superposition of charges. So these are the point charges Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5 are the several number of point charges. Q1 is another point charge which is placed at the origin of the coordinate system, and it experiences a force due to all these charges around it. Now here it experiences a force F12 due to this Q2 charge, F13 due to this Q3 charge, and also F16 and force acting on first charge due to the Q6 charge. F15 is the force acting on the first charge due to the charge Q5, and also F14 force acting on the first charge due to the fourth charge. So these are the forces acting on the charge Q1 due to the remaining charges. Then the resultant force on a charge Q1 is the vector sum of all the forces exerted on it by other charges. How many forces are acting here? Force due to first charge, second charge, third charge, fourth charge, fifth charge, sixth charge. Then the resultant force acting on that charge Q1 is vector sum of, that means F12 plus F13 plus F14, F12 bar plus F13 bar plus F14 bar plus so on. So this principle is called principle of superposition of charges. So this is the resultant force exerted on charge Q1 by remaining all charges. This principle is called principle of superposition of charges. So till now we discuss about forces between the 2 point charges. But in some cases charge is distributed over a surface of a body or on its volume of a body, or charge is distributed on a line. This type of distribution is called continuous charge distribution. Continuous charge distribution. In such cases, to find out the resultant force, we use integration method. We use a integration method. So let us discuss with one example. So this is a charged material. We want to find out force acting on the test charge Q0 due to this charged material. Now divide this charged material into several small charged elements. Let us assume one charge element dq. This dq acts as a point charge. So the distance of the test charge from this small charge element is r. The force acting on this test charge due to this small charge element is df along this direction. According to Coulomb's law, df bar is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught dq into q naught by r square. To find out the resultant force acting on this test charge due to entire material or due to entire charged elements, we have to integrate this equation. F bar, F resultant force is equal to integration of df. So in this type of continuous charge distribution, we use a integration method to calculate the resultant force acting on a test charge. This is a method of continuous charge distribution. So there are some limitations in Coulomb's law. Now we are going to discuss about Coulomb's law limitations. Coulomb's law is valid only for point charges only. It is valid only for point charges. Coulomb's law is also applied for spherical charge distributions, but there is some limitations. In the case of non-conducting spheres, they are separated by a distance r. F is equal to what we write here, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. Here r is the distance between centers of the non-conducting sphere. But when we apply this Coulomb's law, in the case of a conducting sphere, we did not get an accurate result. So let us discuss about conducting spheres. Initially, these two conducting spheres are far apart. The distance between the centers of the conducting spheres are r. Initially, the charge over the surface of the conducting sphere distributed uniformly. But what happens when these conducting spheres comes closer together? Then what happens? Due to the repulsion force between these charges, the centers of the charging spheres gets displaced. That means here the center of the charge is displaced to this point. Here the center of charge of this right sphere displaced to this point. As a result, what happens? The effective separation between the conducting charged sphere increases. R effective is greater than R. R is nothing but what? Initial distance between the centers of the conducting spheres. Now, when we apply Coulomb's law at this situation, F actual force between these two conducting spheres is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r effective square. But in the case of non-conducting sphere, what we get here, F Coulomb force is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. That means here F Coulomb force is greater than F actual force. Now, the first sphere is charged to the positive charge. The second sphere is given to the negative charge. And they are initially they are at a far distance apart. That is the distance between the centers of these spheres is r. What happens when these two spheres comes closer together? Due to the attraction force between the charges, more charge is concentrated at the facing surfaces. Less charge is concentrated at the left and right surfaces. Due to that, what happens? The center of these charges gets displaced from this point to this point, from this point to this point. That means effective separation between these two charged spheres decreases. R effective less than R. So now, by using Coulomb's law, F actual force between the two charged sphere 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r effective square. But what is Coulomb's law for non-conducting sphere? F Coulomb is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. That means here F actual force is greater than F Coulomb force. That means from this discussion we conclude that we did not get accurate results in the case of conducting spheres when we apply Coulomb's law.